How's it going? I was chatting there for about 2 minutes and I just realised that I hadn't hit go live on the thing. So if there's anyone there, give me a message on the thing just so I'm making it early at the minute, like, but just to see who's there. Oh no. It's been a while since I was here. It was Jesus, my last stream must have been about 6 months ago or something like that. But I was just talking to myself there basically. But no, I was saying I was watching that Lives in the Wild with Ben Fogel, and it was a fella Mark Boyle from Lochray, and yeah, he was like a organic farmer. Well, he ran a couple of organics companies in London. He's from Ballyshannon, Donegal, and the Rise. Thank you very much, Marion. Thank you very much. Tell me if the sound and all is all right at the minute, like because I'm on kind of it's all different now. Like I used to have it all set up, and now it's just not. But anyways, I was listening away to him there, like, and I thought it was a good I thought I thought it was a good thing to watch, like because I had read his book, The Moneyless Man, years ago. Like someone got me as like a Christmas present when I was back in like my younger hippie phase, as we all kind of go through at some stage, I think. But he was kind of he was on about that in the program. He was saying that he was giving out about money for. Thanks, Marion. Sounds good. He was giving out about money for ages and ages for about 12 months solid or whatever, and his friends kind of turned out and was like, well, sure, why don't you just do without it then? And he was like, yeah, I probably should actually. And that's how it kind of started out. Paul, how's things, eh? But like I'd often at the Boys in Ballyshannon, everyone kind of knows them. But this fella kind of went away and he got like an economics degree and all this kind of crack, and he's a very interesting character. It was that Ben Fogel in the Wild is the name of the program. Like it's well worth watching. Some of them are very interesting now. But I was just kind of thinking, like I was kind of chatting to a couple of ones in the chat there. And it was kind of hopping all around the place, like, but it was there was a couple of kind of important enough things, I think, and like one of them was the stream I wanted to do, which was around the time of the whatchamacallit game, the Stonks. Like I wanted to chat about that, like, and those fellas was making good points in the chat as well. Like I didn't want to be all like, doomer kind of crack, like, but kind of tie in the two together, Mark Boyle and the Stonks thing. I reckon it's probably the best year, in the last decade to start growing stuff. Like, just to decide, like, that wee bit, if you have a bit of a garden or a windowsill or whatever, just, aim and green. Like, we'll have lettuce on every windowsill. Probably not a bad year to actually start that because things aren't looking fantastic. Even the government are kind of admitting that at this stage, like that they're probably going to run out of money at some stage. So that'll be great crack altogether. It was just kind of like the game Stonks. It was like that was a great thing, like that Wall Street bets, like, and people like tried to turn it like ideological in a way, like they were kind of there was. People saying like, it's not about the money, it's about the, sending a message or whatever. But like Wall Street Bets wasn't like that at all. Like, Wall Street Bets was, I know how to make money. This is going to make money. Everyone should jump on this, like, And sometimes it was, like there was a lot of, pump and dump as it's called, like, just basically buy a stock and then tell everyone, oh, this is going to be huge. Then they all buy in, and then at the peak of it, then you just sell, take your profit. I think there was a lot of that going on, but the difference between that and the GameStop side of things was that, he's probably heard this today at this stage, like, but basically there was massive companies that had to buy that stock back at a certain date. So a load of guys just decided, we'll just jump in and buy up all the stock, drive the price to the roof. make a load of money that they have to pay us. But it got turned into this big like rigmarole or whatever. But that's not really my way of thinking of it. Like like the way it was portrayed in the TV, like that it was like a pure two fingers up to the establishment. Like it was like Wall Street Bets was always about making money. There was guys and they were doing real shady shit, like figuring out like back about a couple of years ago, there was guys that figured out how to like borrow. Like if they put in $5,000, they'd be able to buy like 500 grand worth of stock. Like there was loads of mad stuff altogether going on, and I wouldn't believe all that. The TV reports and the Bloomberg reports and all that was on about it. But like it turned into then like, and this is a crowd that I have great respect for, is silver stackers. They decided to go fucking mental. And I like stacking myself. Like I like buying a bit of silver because I reckon it's proper. It's a physical thing in front of you. And it's like, yeah, well, 12 months ago, silver was worth $5 or €7 roughly each, for each ounce. And it's true like that. When silver is at a low price, nobody wants to buy into it. But when silver starts to go high, everybody wants to buy into it. It's a very industrial method. I don't want to go about silver too much, like, because it'll lead on to the next thing. But like, whenever you look at America, people, I said this to numerous people. I had fuck all like this time last year. I was, I had very little saved up or whatever. But only after the last election and all this kind of crack, fucking all, just didn't have much work done, basically. Didn't have much banked up. But I was saying to people, like, that were around retiring age, I was like, would you not just buy, like, fucking bar of silver or whatever? And they were like, what the fuck? What odds, like? And then the price jumped then, like, from like €7 up to like, it was like the second all-time high. Like it was massive. It was 30, €40 like for an ounce in a very short period. But I was just I was thinking about that over this last while. That it was like, I missed out on that fucking thing, because I had missed out on Bitcoin as well back in about 2015. I started looking at Bitcoin. I think it was about £200 sterling at the time for a Bitcoin. And I was going to buy a lot of them. And I didn't. I was fucking kicking myself then, like whenever I heard like, it's hit 10 grand or whatever. And then whenever in 2017 when it collapsed, I didn't bother buying any either. And I don't know why I did. I must have been doing something at that stage of my life. Thanks, Stone. Yeah, it's been a long 6 months now. It's been kind of fucking, yourself. So a lot of people got all this like PUP payment, and I got none of it. So I was kind of, I was fairly raging about that. But sure, we're all heading into the recession together now anyway. So we may as well enjoy it. But yeah, the silver thing. Like I seen it going up, and I seen Bitcoin going up. And I was like, fuck it, this time, like, I'm not fucking, like, I reckon the way I see things planning out is that they're going to start printing a shitload of money in America, and they're going to start printing a load of money in the European Union as well. But the problem is that you look at places like Italy. Italy basically owes about, I think it was 130% of what the entire country, the GDP, in debt. So they're going to be printing, like they had to appoint Mario Draghi, Super Mario, again as the like Prime Minister of Italy, because he's like a technocrat to try and sort this stuff out. But the problem is that like Draghi failed the last time. He's like a European central banker that Italy have just like appointed. Just the president has basically unilaterally appointed him to try and get this problem sorted. And I it's hard to see like where Italy is going to get this out of, like how they're going to pull this off. Lastrigal says Bitcoin and commodities is a store of value, can't hurt. Yeah, commodities. Like, see here's the only thing, right? This is the only way I can see it going, right? Either there's going to be inflation, which means that everything is going to shoot through the roof. People are seeing that with money. Yeah, even if cryptos fall in value, definitely. Like because I reckon that whenever we start getting massive inflation, I think that that is going to lead to like what we've seen in like when I say massive inflation, I mean to a point where like people like aren't paying off debt. Do you know, even like mortgages like that happened in 2008, or different, whatever debt they've built up, and if they get to a stage where they start defaulting on that debt, the banks are going to start hitting like absorbing absorbing all that bad money to a point where that there's going to be a deflation where things are getting sold in like fire sales. Like there's people like just before 2008 there was a massive drop in gold and silver prices because people were selling, like the wealthy were selling all that off as quick as they could in order to try and keep themselves liquid, like to keep their bills being paid, in order to like pay staff or whatever, if the companies, all this kind of crack. They were dumping everything, and that's why the price of everything dropped. But like the way the economy works, it is like imagine a big tank of water, and it's fairly steady, like on four legs or whatever. But the thing is, like if water starts sloshing from one side to the other, everything is going with it until eventually it just buckles. And our economy at the minute is, sloshed around like mad. Like, it's like the Titanic with like, half full of water at this stage. So like there could be like a massive deflationary period. But the thing is that in order to try and counteract that, they're going to start firing money out. Like, money printer go burr. And that will lead to, obviously inflation. But, as things are being repossessed and sold off cheap and all, they'll try and boost the price of what they're selling by giving the people more money to raise that. And it's just kind of a question, like the only kind of two, well, there's three main modes of thinking. And the first is like, the official, what you'll hear on RT, and it's, it'll be sorted, like, it won't be easy, but it'll be grand. And the second is like, you can call them gold bugs or whatever. That is basically that, it's going to be massive inflation and that everything's fucking, going to go sky high. Gold's going to ride up to, 10,000 euro an ounce or whatever. And then there's the third opinion then that everything's going to fucking tank and that, gold will be worth, 800 euro an ounce. That, you'll barely be able to get it because everyone will just be buying it that kept cash at that time. And it's like, it is kind of a coin flip at that stage, like, because is it going to, like, it will be deflationary for a while, but it's just the question of how bad they're going to get it. Like, if you had, like, if you think back to like the Great Depression, that was deflationary and that lasted for yonks, like that was years long. Like that was people, sleeping outside, like setting up tents in the forest, bad, like kind of recession, like, and that's probably what we think of. I know it's like a worst case scenario. Like inflationary is like Weimar Republic. So it's kind of it's a tough one to see where it's going, but by my own logic, I reckon having something to trade is better than, it's a bit conspiratorial to say that, like the internet is shut down or whatever. But I think like Bitcoin and all, like the cryptos, they are grand. Like, in a situation like that, as long as like you have a place that you can have, off the exchanges, like in your own crypto wallet. If you have your own, like a source of electricity or computer that you're able to transfer onto a card or whatever like that, if it gets to the stage where like, windmills aren't working or there's no power, then you're screwed. Like, but that's like next level depression. Like, because you're going to be able to go somewhere to get a computer to plug in. Like, so I think crypto, the only kind of real big problem with crypto in the next, you know, 20 years, say, is quantum computing. Like, if they're able to break down the encoding in the blockchain, I think that's the only like major problem that we're going to encounter. Like, I think crypto is it's pretty safe. Like, but whether it's a store of value the same way that gold is, yeah, I'm kind of hesitant on that. Like, and like I have a bit of crypto just kind of like I just kind of swap between whenever something's peaking or I think it's peaking, I'll just swap into something that I think is going to rise again. And that way I've made not a fucking huge amount, like, but pays for a couple of cigarettes and a lot of cans, like every now and again, like. But Astrid Gale says the housing market is also worth looking at. We have a huge amount of private debt in the economy. Yeah, like I can't remember figures now, like, but private debt is huge. Like you think of it this way: back in the I could use America as an example, but up where I am in Donegal, like everyone was dirt poor until like the Celtic Tiger. So, but it's like 1950s. The man went to work. The woman looked after the children at home. She done it up how she wanted. Like it was like food was paid for, the mortgage was damn all, like this kind of crack. And then it kind of got to the stage where like the savings were being depleted to the point where the woman had to go out and work. So then the kids were like, sent off to the grandparents or whatever, and then regulations came in. So it was like, all right, they have to go to a crash, so we're going to have to work extra hours at work. Like, the dissolution of the family, we're all kind of, we all kind of remember that. Owen K says, good to see you out of hibernation. Yeah, finally, like, I am like a bear. I think they're only waking up in Alaska at this stage of the year now. Gran Torino, how's things? He said, they'll be told to surrender property rights for debt forgiveness and vaccination. Bitcoin is the great reset. Now, too much momentum to hold it back. Good to hear your voice. Cheers, man. Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I heard that thing, the Dave Cullen video a couple of months back, and obviously I've had a good bit of time to think, and that seems logical now. In fairness, like I can't really argue with that. Like, it's if they are going for a great reset, like they are going to try and strong arm that into the situation, and obviously telling people their homes are at risk or their businesses are at risk is perfect for them. Like, and it is a power that they have. So they would definitely be very, very conscious of that. Like, like I inflationary as we are, deflationary as Argentina in 2001. Yeah, it's either people. Is it the central bank going crazy or the people losing everything? Like, Visa now accepts Bitcoin. That's huge. Yeah, I heard. I was watching it earlier. Or what was it? Yesterday, and Elon Musk was like, there was a report that Elon Musk was buying 1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, and it just went to the moon. Like, I fags and beer tonight. I have no work tomorrow, by the way, because we're basically in a recession. But it just fucking went up. Like, I got like a week's wages in a day, just sitting doing fuck all, just kind of panicking. Do I sell now or do I keep? So that was my like week's wages. Buy cheap land before the crash. Money would be worth fuck all. Yeah, you see, this is the logic I'm trying to come to. Like, deflation versus inflation. Like, if it's inflation, you could be paying 10 grand for a load of bog, but there probably will be a deflationary period. And I have to do the typical YouTube advice. I am not a financial advisor. I am a guy that fucking shovels shit for a living, and I'm only giving my opinion, right? But it seems to be, from listening to people far more intelligent than I am, it seems to be that there will be a deflation of people defaulting before there is massive printing to try and stimulate the economy. Like, there is going to be huge, like 2 trillion, Joe Biden says. Like that's like 10% of the entire U.S. debt, which is crazy. Like because they printed like half the dollars in circulation last year, so that's that's a lot of money. Like that they're just going to be dumping, and the thing is that they're giving that directly to people as well. Like this isn't being like held up in banks to try and pay off other banks to pay off other banks. This is like people directly competing for who's going to be able to buy that onion in the shop. Like that's a crazy situation. Like parachuting money, and I think that is a bit mad. And it's like, what else can they do at this stage? Like obviously, sorry for fixing my headset, but obviously they must have some sort of plan for this, like because they couldn't let it get this bad. I don't know, like maybe they are just complete idiots, like, but I would assume that in America especially, you have Janet Yellen, who was like what the ex, she was one of the chairmen of the Fed or whatever, Federal Reserve. So like she's bound, like obviously all these people know each other, but like they must have some plan. Like it cannot be just firefighting since 2008. Like this is like the way I see it. If you listen to like the narrative around the year 2000 when you had the dot-com boom with all these like stupid internet companies that like were being valued at billions when they were like like the local shop having a fucking an online shop page, like like dog food companies worth billions, like and they were just selling dog food for more expensive than what you buy at the shop, like. And then there was like this, like there was that big boom, and then a massive bust, and then they started like in the early 2000s, like they were printing money. The euro came on board as well at this time, like but they were all kind of like oh yeah, we'll keep pushing it, keep building things up. And then it got to like 2008 when house prices were just mental and they were giving them out to anyone to try and like build up this capital on their debt books. Like, it'd be like, oh yeah, we're owed this much, we're owed that much, so we're all okay. And then suddenly everyone just started defaulting. And Lehman Brothers and Fannie Mae or whatever the hell the name of the company was, like just all started defaulting. And then you got the deflation then, like, where nobody had any fucking money because you were being taxed out of your whatever and everyone was selling. So everything was just being driven down into the floor, like, which is a good, like, that's a good place to swoop in with like a couple of grand and buy up your stuff. And, then obviously in 2008, then it started printing trillions and trillions and trillions. The trust in the euro at that stage was like at like the lowest it's ever been. Like 50% of Europeans were like, I don't think it's going to last. It was only a new currency over here, and it was after like basically leading us into a massive disaster when countries weren't able to like, like you had the Swiss franc, yeah, it's still there, but like you didn't have the Deutschmark or the franc or all the whatever it is, the guilder or whatever it was in Denmark, whatever. And you didn't have this insulation policy. It was just this Europe-wide disaster zone, like, of economics, and it just this money printer just going flat out, pumping into the banks all the time. Like, of course, for Ireland, it paid like 80% of all for all that printing or whatever. I missed it in half the chat here now. Tesla bought a shit ton of Bitcoin. Yeah, I see. Like, I heard Apple now is looking to put 5 billion in, so that seems to be from a semi-respect. Like, well, that's split between gold and Bitcoin, so, and silver as well. So, like, they would actually use silver anyway in manufacturing. And that's been all over the place as well. Like, that silver squeeze is fantastic. Like, if everyone, like, in America just bought like 5 ounces of silver, it would drive the price like up past like I don't even know how to describe it. Like, it would cause a knock-on effect that would take out the bullion banks, which would take out like JP Morgan. It'd be like Occupy Wall Street, except if they just went in and just started blasting like that. That's the no Fed boast, but that's like the equivalent of that. Like, the silver market is tiny. Like, it's like $1 trillion, which is very little. Like, whenever you add up 300 million people in America plus whatever 300 million in Europe, that have some sort of cash flow or whatever. But if people like started buying silver en masse, you would start I reckon it'd be like cataclysmic for the banks. Like they have these built-in measures where like they can just say, right, you bought these silver certificates like that were redeemable for silver, but instead of that, we're just going to give you money instead at the current value. So that's why people are buying. It's like on Twitter $ SLV, but that's like silver contracts. But then there's like I forget the name of it. Is it Scots or something? I can't remember. Sprots. So it's PSLV, and whenever you buy silver, like a silver certificate off them, they actually import the silver. Like if you buy whatever a couple ounces off them, they will physically take that silver and put it in the vault. But if you buy it off that $SLV, there's a lot of fucking manipulation going on there by the way I see it. And like there's a lot of guys that are more into economics than me, and that is like it's basically fractional reserve lending except for silver instead of just normal money. Like they'll take in 10 ounces and then loan it out to a different bank, and then that bank will loan it out as a contract for 10 ounces. So there's like 20 ounces but there's only 10, and they just don't exist then, like if everyone tries to claim them at the same time. So it's a very, very interesting situation we're finding now. Let me see. Own nothing and you'll be happy is the slogans, I think. Yeah, we're going to say that to the billionaires. We're going to tell all the ones in the central banks, that you can live on that. So yeah, it depends. If you're a civil servant, deflation is brilliant for you. Definitely, this is why. Like there's, I won't even get into what I was going to get into. Like I was going to talk about. Actually, I probably will talk about in some form at the end of the stream or something. Like it was just about that article that the Burkean put out today about Christian nationalists, liberal nationalists, that kind of thing. But it's not too important really. But yeah, as Lastry Gale said, if you're on the outside of the system. Or the hyper elite, the inflation is good for you, definitely. And academics can be massively incompetent. Mona Lane is one of the biggest economists now and thinks that increased labour doesn't increase demand for houses. Yeah, like this is the thing, like, and I'm trying to remember, was it David McWilliams or that other? I think it was David McWilliams. But like my father, used to be part of a kind of a low-level organisation or whatever, but there was like a dinner dance on. This is back in like 2007, 2006, something like that. And like, I'll preface this by saying I was at a mart, booking in animals there last week, and I was chatting with the farmers, and the farmers all know, like they were like the prices are way up. There's something going on. Like they were like, we're not getting paid more for nothing, like. And they were kind of saying, like, it's because there's more money about these days and all. Like, and then there was a fella saying, like, a real smart boy at that. Like, he is very clued in. And he was like, yeah, but sure, they're going to be looking for that back, in his own way. He was kind of saying what I'm saying now, like. And all the farmers kind of looked at him, like, and they're like, they will not. He was like, no such thing as a free lunch. Like, because I was getting prices and they were like, 10-15%, whatever, higher than what they were worth, like what I know they were worth a year or two ago. And it's like, where is this coming out of? And it's like, obviously they're printing away like fucking mad in Europe, like, this PUP and all this kind of crack. And, like that PUP thing as well, I reckon that they're not going to forgive any of that debt either. They want people to like pay it, or like, countries to pay it off by more windmills, more green energy, more this kind of crack. It's a pure. It is a Ponzi scheme. It's like an enforced Ponzi scheme at this stage, like, and it's going to be a real fucking mess. Like, I like up in Donegal here, like we had this mean bog slide. We're half of them out inside just slipped into the river. Like it was at Amazon. Amazon have bought like all the wind energy in Donegal, whatever it's going to produce. They have bought all of that, and it was actually the Fermanagh and Omagh District Council that objected to Amazon. The Donegal County Council said nothing whatsoever. Like now, after Omagh and Fermanagh and all have objected to this building, then they jumped in and said, "Oh, one guy was like, oh, I think there should be like an investigation." Whereas Omagh and Fermanagh across the border in a technically different country are saying, "No, shut the whole fucking thing down, get out and forget about it." Like the poisoned rivers, the Eni was it? It's the Owen Moore River, I think. The whole way down, like joins in with the river going through Donegal town. Like it's just brown muck the whole way through it. Like it's absolutely brutal. Like, but yeah, we're in for a very very weird time. Like I do like the idea of cycles, especially like economics and stuff, because at least you have numbers and you can kind of compare things and stuff like that. But this is like there's a thing, and it's called the was it the Great Crime of '73. It was in 1873. The dollar, like a dollar, is a weight of silver. It's like whatever 350 grains or something like that, 370 something grains, which is like a bit under an ounce or whatever. That was what a dollar was worth. And I think we're at the stage now where like we have the fiat currency, like fix it again tomorrow, print it, tax it, whatever. Like, but we're getting to a stage now where they're looking for a new form of currency. Like the money system is broken. I think everyone that's listening will agree with that. But I think the biggest question in my mind is that like Bitcoin does seem to be the best option right now, and to me anyway personally. But I don't trust it at all. Like the fact that like say Tesla can come in and buy 1.5 billion worth. Like how many thousands of coins is that? Like so they obviously are able to like kind of half manipulate the market already. Like it seems to be like a corporatocracy that's kind of developing. Because you have little guys that like bought, you know, 0.02 of a Bitcoin that are getting like $1,000 out of it now, and they're like, I only bought this for like $10 10 years ago, or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever. Like, and they're making a shitload, But it's like there's bigger players then that are like feeding off this. It's gonna it could end up the exact same way. It's like it's never going to be a perfect system. But trying to level it out, I don't think Bitcoin is the ultimate. In you listen to Max Kaiser and all, and I've good respect for Max Kaiser. He was saying to fucking buy silver 10 years ago, and he actually got somewhere serious. The banks were actually telling him, please stop, which was pretty accident. But no, I think the way I always seen it, and I think there is inherent value in certain things, gold, silver, land. These things do have value. No matter, Jesus, if you were a brain sitting in a jar and someone offered you 1,000,000 golden coins, you'd probably take it for something, because it's just it's gold, But I think getting the fuck out of the stock market right now could be a good call. Here's the thing I'm thinking, right? The stock market, I think logically in my own head, it should boom whenever Joe Biden is printing. It's you look at Tesla over the whole of the last 6 months, it's doubled, and it's done fucking nothing. He's literally they launched a rocket that blew up about 10 seconds later. That's all Tesla have done this year. They've barely sold any cars. They've barely fucking done anything else. Sorry for cursing so much, by the way. But yeah, it's growing. I think this is this is an inflationary period where people are getting money, and it's just going to even Bitcoin, right? I'm not saying for or against Bitcoin. I think it's betting on horses at the minute, and I'm not a gambler, but I still put money into it because I just like seeing numbers go up. But I think the possibility is strong that it could still go absolutely tankwards. I think it's like twice as likely to go up than down for the foreseeable. I don't see it collapsing overnight, but I wouldn't be against it. I wouldn't argue that in time it could collapse. Like the same as Tesla, the same the GameStop basically, but dragged out. I think that's the way things could be. Like, but then again, I'm not paid to fucking think about this stuff. I shovel shit and bang metal for for very very little money. So yeah, I was just kind of thinking like I often like I do listen to Keith Woods. I wouldn't listen to all the stuff, but I do listen to a good bit of it. I do enjoy a lot of the takes he has, but like some of them I wouldn't really be fully on board with. Like especially kind of the more practical side of things. Like I think his philosophy is it's very very good. Very entertaining to watch. Like, but there's like a couple of things. I remember reading an article he wrote, and I'm not whatever. It's just my opinion, but like, he was on about that the nationalists need oligarchs in order to like take on the system or whatever. But I think like that kind of paradigm, that way of thinking, is kind of nearly like it takes a lot of management in order to do it any other way, or some sort of communication and common understanding, or whatever. But he was saying like take on like basically there's a choice between the West and like China or Iran that you would side with them rather than neoliberal, Europe. But it's kind of like a case of what is stopping us in like absolute turmoil. Like even look at like Dogecoin or Doggy Coin or whatever it's called. Like I like quadrupled my money overnight. I was trying to sell one night. I couldn't sell. And I was like, oh, well, fucking it'll be gone in the morning. Like, I woke up the next morning and trebled or quadrupled or whatever. I was just like, what the fuck? And I was like, oh, I have to try and swap it out now. Like, it wouldn't swap into native cryptocurrency. So I put it in this thing, Hedera. I buy that the odd time, like, just as a kind of I reckon it's kind of semi-stable at like, 1 cent or 8 cent each or whatever at this stage. It's just kind of a token coin, And I put it in there, like, and it went up like another 25%, like in the next day or two. Then I put it into Bitcoin, and then it, like, Elon Musk bought it. Just pure luck. Like, I have fucking no clue what I'm doing. But, anyways, it's just kind of like, if we had financial people behind us, like, that weren't system, weren't establishment finance, that were like constantly scouring Discord and Telegram and Twitter or whatever, like to watch for trends on crypto. Jesus, like we could be well off now at this stage. Like I was just some jackass that was like, someone was like, at the start, oh, buy some H bar. I was like, yeah, sorry, why not? Like, and then it went, up. And then some, like literally just a guy screaming, dog ate to the moon. And I was like, yeah, sound, there's money. And just went through the moon. Like, and I think there is a way, like, and it is like, the downside of that is that it is, what's the word? Musical chairs a lot of the time. Like, the GameStop thing was different, like, because you're actually getting money off a hedge fund to buy them. But there is like there's people that are more fucking clued in than me. There's bound to be a way to do this, with massive numbers. So like even the silver thing, I have full belief in that. Like I reckon silver has been completely fucking. There's fake silver on the market that you can buy as shares and stocks. I reckon it doesn't exist. I reckon it's double and triple and quadruple counted, all the way up, just to try and to make it look like money is better than silver, rather than, people just like, oh, here's a fucking, for a pack of fags or whatever, here's a half an ounce of silver. It makes so much more sense, like, if it had some sort of a semblance of a set price, like, but it can quadruple, silver was used for thousands and thousands of years, like as a steady money system. But it was just that, like with modern mining technology, it just goes all over the place. So let's see how. Check out Teresa Cahill YouTube on Facebook. Right, well, there's a free plug for you anyway for reading the message. But there's the thing: people have been piling into the stock market as a good to. People are piling into the stock market as a good to return of interest. Sorry, I'm trying to read this here. It was on the spell. The socialism stuff won't work. Not talking about him. I don't know who is that. Kaiser or something. But yeah, kind of lost my train of thought there. I'm trying to wonder who Teresa Cahill is now. So Elon Musk played it smart, bigging up the GME stock before it crashed, so they'd be all looking at him. Then he pumps into Bitcoin, so everyone follows the trend. Yeah, true enough. Like I'm sure Elon, he is clout. Like he's the richest man in the world, hands down. Like not bad. Like he started selling insurance in South Africa, like just before like it collapsed into a third world country. He probably would have made a lot of money out of that. In fairness, but yeah, it's a pretty mad one. Like it's hard to think up. Like obviously this is not financial advice. Like disclaimer again. Like, but trying to think of like. I'm only thinking from my own perspective, like, and the people around me, and I don't know what it's like in a city or whatever like that, I haven't lived there years and years. So we're trying to figure out, like, what is the fucking intelligent thing to do these days? Like, you have lockdowns, you have probably recession of some description, probably a depression. Is money going to be worth more or less? And is the future good or bad? That's a lot of fucking variables right there, like. So I just always kind of revert to my basic ideology of move out to the countryside, buy an old farmer's cottage, fix it up, and then pack it full of kids. I think that is like the number one investment you will ever make in your entire existence as both man and spirit. That's just my opinion anyway. But yeah, like even now, like you can't even build a chimney in your house, not this kind of crack, and it's like they're clearly shepherding people somewhere, like, and it's in these towns, but there's no housing, so they're driving up rents. So it's like, yeah, but who owns the houses in them places or the flats? Like, it's these big companies, and it's like this is getting curiouser and curiouser and curiouser, like, and then it's like, oh yeah, they're printing money, but they're going to bail out these ones, and it's like. I'm no genius, like, but I can kind of see a pattern to what's going on here, like, and I think it's about time. The same as Wall Street bets, people maybe should start thinking about voting with their wallets. I like Gemma for the good stuff she's done in the past or whatever has failed to get that, that point, just even that first bit of the spear in, like there was the little thing, and that could have been, if it was worded the correct way, like if it was put in a kind of a whatever, the media would have attacked her anyway, definitely 100%, not disagreeing with you there, like, but it was just kind of like, if you could get a certain number of normies in behind you, like just to kind of like make a triangle, whatever, delta wing formation to go in there, like, that could have had huge repercussions, like, across the country. Instead, it was just this kind of like, it turned into kind of like a media thing, and then it just disappeared, like, and I seen it pop up then as well, about the far right or whatever, in a newspaper article there a couple of weeks ago. And obviously it was a load of fucking muck, but it was like these little opportunities, like it just, we're going to have to start taking them, or we're just going to have to start, like, admitting to ourselves that we're just not cutting the mustard. Basically, cutting the mustard is a good example, like, because we have to make that incision, like this. throwing numbers isn't working. Like, we're like the French in World War, whatever, one or two, whatever. They were just like sending like 8,000 men at a time at German machine guns. It just wasn't working. We need like a point. Whatever. The phalanx has failed. It's 3,000-year-old technology basically. But yeah, it's just kind of a case. Like, this was kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about was the Burkean article today, and yeah, it was good. Like, it was better than what you'd get in the Irish Times or whatever, but it wasn't. Wouldn't have been top tier way of phrasing it, I would say, but it was good. Like, that there is a kind of a substratus, of nationalists. Like, you have your different camps, under different generals or whatever way you want to put it. Like, different, you have your people then individualized, whatever. Like, but it's kind of like a case of like, I was going to do a stream ages ago about like, three different kind of main groups at that time. Like, but now it's kind of devolved into a lot of it's only like quantum physics, like the double slit experiment. You put a slit behind a piece of paper and you put a lamp, and then on the wall you can see a straight line through the slit of paper. But if you do another slit, it looks like waves. I think that's the way we're kind of going at the minute, which probably isn't a bad thing, really, because the way I see it is that we will get an overall concept of what a nation should be built out of, everyone's input. If it's a good idea, we have a strength in this that like the left doesn't have, but that we can take ideas, formulate them, let them ferment, build on them. If it doesn't work, cut it off, and then just keep going at that. Like, and we've been doing fantastically at that over the years, but obviously it's devolved into a couple of kind of branches at the minute. Some stronger than others, some maybe a bit wayward or whatever. It's kind of all personal opinion really at the minute, because in reality, brass taxes, none of us have had electoral support, like, or, we're all still growing basically, acorns. But like, at the same time, the idea of coming under like one banner doesn't appeal to me at all. Like, just be personally, I can see the point in having like a diversity of opinion. Like, I agree completely. Like, it would be an extremely boring and unfulfilling and not practical organization if all of us were having to think the same thing all the time. And I agree that there is there's quite a bit of difference between a lot of us a lot of the time, like, but I think it's kind of like Twitter is definitely not the place to be discussing this. It is absolutely useless for anything beyond snarky remarks or quick reminders. I think there's no real, you can't debate on Twitter, you can't like lay it out. It's like, it ends up giving links. It's just like, why are we on this platform at all? Like, I was using Gab. I haven't used, like, I kind of get glued to Twitter, like, because, I like, looking at the absolute mayhem in the Irish Times and stuff like that. I must actually mention, don't look at the story in Donegal about the vet, because it's absolutely filthy. But that's why I support, hanging pedophiles, because that fucker, my God, he is the worst of all kinds. Like, but anyways, there's kind of a difference, obviously, between the whole lot of us, and I think maybe there's a better forum instead of like, you have your whoever versus whoever, and then people giving out and people defending on Twitter. Maybe a bit of a forum between general members might come up with something a bit better. It's just kind of the way I've been thinking this last while I stand in my shed and scrape shit and bang metal. So that's just my lowly opinion on the kind of general stuff that's happening on at the minute. People who call themselves centrist or left, but who ultimately agree with us. Yeah, there's a damn lot. I got screamed at in Donegal one day. A guy came out and he thought me and Grant Torino and Niall McConnell were the same group, and I was like, no, like different. It's like, look at the I'm after handing you a leaflet like 2 seconds ago to your letterbox, and he came out, but he agreed with like everything I was saying, but there was nothing. The only problem was that I was being divisive. That was, and I was like, I agree, yeah, I agree with this, and then it's like he was on about immigration, and I was like, yeah, I think there should be a limit drawn at some stage, and he was like, well, I'm voting Sinn Féin the next time. And I don't agree that they're letting in every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but you're being divisive, and it's like we have a lot of work to do, don't we? So it was yeah. Get used to that. I think we have to be ready for the intellectual confrontations going forward. I think we've been out a lot during the lockdown, leafleting and chatting people and trying to get as much done as possible. So I hope you hope you join in before the whole lot goes to shit altogether. Sorry for laughing, but anyways, thanks very much for listening, and I hope you have a great end to the lockdown. I hope it happens soon. Good night.